been seized, disrupting the networks that have long exploited our lands and our rivers. In addition to enforcement, we are reclaiming what has been lost. 9 forest reserves have been successfully recovered from the grip of illegal miners, restoring these vital ecosystems under state protection. Our Tree for Life initiative is being actively rolled out across the country, targeting the restoration of lands degraded by illegal mining activities. Steps are currently underway to repeal LI 2462 to formalize our commitment to end mining in forest reserves. Let me be clear, since my administration resumed office, not a single license has been issued to any company to mine in our forest reserves. The repeal of LI 2462 is therefore intended just to crystallize in law what we have already demonstrated in practice, which is our commitment to protect these forest reserves. My friends, understand that public accountability and the recovery of looted state resources are at the top of your expectations from my government. And let me assure you, my fellow citizens, that we've not wavered in our commitment for even a moment. Neither have we been complacent. What you are witnessing is not inaction, it is our steadfast adherence to due diligence, due process, and fairness in pursuit of justice. Yes, our insistence on doing things the right way may afford those who have looted this country some temporary relief, but let me be clear, it will not grant them permanent escape. Across multiple fronts, active pursuits and prosecutions are well underway under the Operation Recover All the Loot. Over 200 cases are under active investigation, with about 80 people interrogated so far. Several prosecutions have begun, progressing steadily and remaining firmly on course. In the Republic versus Edubwa and 3 others, the state has submitted witness statements together with all other documents, and trial has commenced. And the first of 3 prosecution witnesses have been called and have been cross-examined by counsel for the accused person. With the SkyTrain case, for instance, the prosecutors have secured a trial date, as all preliminary matters have been concluded and the trial is set to commence. For the National Service Authority case, due to its expansive nature, charges have been drafted and will be filed as soon as the legal year begins against the following person: the Republic versus Osei, the Republic versus Eric Nyaku, the Republic versus Gifty Owari. Also for the National Cathedral, we are awaiting a forensic audit from the Auditor General. Additionally, charges have been drafted and are ready for filing in the case of Republic versus Wuntumi and Akunta Mining. The Economic and Organized Crime Office, YOCO, is finalizing its report with respect to Exim Bank transactions. Dockets are in preparation for the Alpha Stock case and the drip equipment case. Investigations are ongoing into the African Cup of Nations, the March set case, and will happen swiftly. We launched a code of conduct for public officials with an insistence on strict compliance. A high-level working group has been inaugurated to draft a new anti-corruption strategy aimed at strengthening ethical and institutional coordination. My fellow citizens, the scourge of Galamsey is receiving much attention. We've established the National Anti-Illegal Mining Operations Secretariat, NIMOS, as a Central Operations Command Center coordinating the national mining and its associated environmental degradation. In a coordinated effort across all security agencies and the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources, 440 excavators have been seized. Over 1,400 arrests have been made, with suspects awaiting prosecution. Over 300 Shamfang machines have been confiscated and destroyed. Over 900 water pumps seized from illegal mining sites have been handed over to the Ministry of Agriculture for distributing to farmers for irrigation purposes. Of Ghana's 288 forest reserves, 44 had previously suffered varying degrees of destruction from illegal mining. Notably, 9 of those reserves had become no-go zones due to the presence of armed groups. Through the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources and with support from the security agencies, we've successfully repossessed all 9 of these red-zoned forest reserves. However, over the weekend, the Jimira Forest Reserve and the Anria Futu section of the Offense Shelter Belt was re-invaded by illegal miners after these were handed back to the Forestry Commission. The military is currently working with NIMOS to repossess those reserves and establish a permanent presence in those liberated forest reserves to prevent re-incursion by illegal miners. 90 personnel have been recruited restoration efforts are currently underway. In collaboration with the Ministry of Transport, the Ministry of Finance, GRA Customs Division, and the Ports and Harbours Authority, we've instituted a system for the proactive tracking of all imported excavators and earth-moving equipment from the port of entry. 1,200 excavators through the permitting process from the transport registration with DVLA and tracking at the Minerals Commission. So far, we've registered 1,015 earth-moving and mining equipment. 647 have been registered and fitted with tracking devices. There are an additional 600 equipment at the port. An additional 350 tracking devices are expected by September 12, 2025, as this monitoring effort. The Constitutional Review Commission is actively engaging stakeholders across the country, gathering views on how best to shape the future framework of Ghana's democracy. This inclusive approach ensures that voices of citizens, civil society, and institutions are reflected in the evolving constitutional order. Friends, internal security is important for economic progress. Pursuant to our commitment to improving security, we have earmarked 1 billion Ghana cedis to retool our security agencies. The Ministry of Energy has recently granted a declaration of commerciality for the Eban Akoma oil and gas discoveries in Cape 3 Points, Block 4, confirming their commercial viability. This paves the way for the joint venture partners ENI Vitol in January this year has been acted. Through strategic interventions and swift action, power supply has remained stable across the country, ensuring uninterrupted electricity for households, businesses, and essential services. We've made significant strides in restoring fiscal decentralization. It is only 40% to 50% of the District Assembly's Common Fund was reaching metropolitan, municipal, and district assemblies, constraining their capacity to deliver local services. Our government has reversed this trend. District assemblies are now receiving 80% of their allocation directly. the 7.57 billion allocated for DACF this year, approximately 6.1 billion has gone straight to local assemblies. Minimum of 25 million allocated to each MMDA. Already the first quarter to ensure focused impact, Cabinet has approved expenditure guidelines for the districts of what we call 24-hour economy model markets. 10% is allocated for health with a minimum of 2 CHIPS compounds per district. Education, 1 KG, 1 primary, 1 GS. Of almost 1 billion cedis to ensure speedy completion by the end of second quarter of next year. My media colleagues, our reset agenda remains on course, and I've remained unwavering in my commitment not only to the promise I made to you in the run-up to the 2024 elections, but to the principles of honesty, transparency, and probity and accountability that define good governance. I'm resolute in laying foundations for economic recovery, resetting our institutions to reflect the demands of modern governance and enhanced service delivery for every Ghanaian. I'm driven by a deep determination to see the dreams of our forebears for an economically independent and self-reliant Ghana realized in our lifetime. I'm equally determined to restore Ghana's rightful place as a respected voice and actor on the global stage. With your continued trust and support, I'm confident that we will not only meet these goals, but also build a nation that serves the hopes of this generation and their. May God bless us all, and may God bless our homeland Ghana. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. At this stage, we will delve straight into the question and answer session, which will be guided by the following rubric. There will be one question per questioner, and this is to ensure that we maximize the time. This program is supposed to last for 1.5 hours, and we are due to leave here at 9:30. I would also entreat you to avoid lengthy preambles to questions so that we can afford as many of you to continue to ask questions. There will be 5 batches of questioning with 4 questions in each batch. 2 microphones will be placed on either side of the middle row to enable these questions to be asked. So at this stage, I'll call on the ushers and stewards to position the microphones so that the questions could be asked. Okay, so the gentlemen on either side of the middle row are with the microphone. So when you ask the question, please put up your hand. You catch my attention now. All right, so we have the president of the Ghana Journalists Association who is supposed to embody your collective aspirations. So I would accord him the courtesy of asking the first question. So Mr. Jofo, you may ask the first question. After which I see Kojo Prekodankwa, and then the Moses of Bloomberg, and then one lady in the middle. to bring the number to 4. Mr. Jumfo, you may ask your question, please.
Thank you, Honorable. Mr. President, thank you so much for this opportunity and having been given opportunity to set the tone for the media encounter. Permit me to commend you for availing yourself for this media encounter and for your commitment to transparency and accountability. Your willingness to face scrutiny just 8 months into your term set a commendable example of good governance. We also wish to commend you for your assurance and firm commitment to safeguarding the safety and protection of journalists across the country. Now my question, Mr. President, as you may be aware, remuneration and general working conditions in the media are not the best, especially in the state-owned media, which falls under the authority of government. This situation is a key factor in our low ranking on the World Press Freedom Index under the economic indicator. What measures is your government putting in place to improve working conditions in the state-owned media and also to provide relief for those in the private media? Also, assault on journalists are on the rise. And I know this is of great concern to you as a journalist yourself and a proud member of the Inky fraternity. The Ghana Journalists Association would therefore like to know what your government is doing to address this disturbing trend. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. Kojo, you may have the microphone now.
Good evening. My name is Kojo Prekodankwa, Kesman Media. In your remarks, you did touch on the issue of mining, and I want to commend your government with the achievements you chalked. But recently, we heard that Ghana Water Company is proposing almost about 280% increment in tariffs. One of the major reasons they raised has to do with Galamsey and how it is affecting them to get us good or potable water. In this way, I would want to ask, Mr. President, would you then consider the argument that we should have the state of emergency when it comes to illegal mining? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kojo. I believe I called the Moses of Bloomberg. Yes.
Your Excellency, thank you very much. My name is Moses, a correspondent of Bloomberg. Your Excellency, Ghana's economic indicators have turned into a positive trajectory, and buoyed by the ratings you also referenced and investor confidence. Do you think that that gives enough scope for you to go back to the international capital market, maybe for your first Eurobond after the defaults? Thank you.
Okay, so we'll take the final question in this batch from the lady whose hand is up.
Great.
Medase, Ediame Jeso, and Apina Pukua, when near me, Adam Brand, Sadum TV, and Adam FM. Masebisa, Efa, and Kania Boy, they say ECG, a proposed 225%. You said me more in two by a base 2.45. In July, it was sold by 14.75. Then you now see him say a bind one is on the 24 economy. Or the Bayajuma na Ghana for the Dunya Mufaso. It is say ECD the 225% increment by Yenim Hawa proposal or any Hukumudebe percentage of debating. A beko Ghana for the banana company say I'm not getting. If it's a bit many and so, 24 economy no so Ghana for Butum and a beams are buying best say or best swasney a yes subsidy. Ama or my for what Tomana, Medasi.
So His Excellency the President will field these questions at this stage. Thank you.
Thank you very much, President of GGM. Your question is a double question, one on remuneration and the other on assault of journalists. With regards to remuneration, I would say that it's not only journalists in the state-owned media who are dissatisfied with their salaries. Public service salaries are not living wages. I agree with the TUC that we must work towards a living wage. All of us are dissatisfied with the salary we get as public servants. The private sector offers better remuneration. But that's why we have to work together to grow the national cake so that we can pay ourselves better. And that is why there's agitation for cancellation of Article 71 in the Constitution, because we all must feel the pinch so that we can grow things together. But when you cushion a certain constitutional class and they have more cushy remuneration than the other people, then it creates a kind of discrimination between public service. And so our advocacy has been for an independent emoluments commission that would deal with the salaries and wages of all persons in the public sector so that we grow those wages together. In our first incarnation under Professor Mills, we established a single spine salary structure. And that salary structure was supposed to uniform out wages in the public sector so that the disparity will not be too wide. So if you are a secretary in GBC compared to a secretary in, say, Bank of Ghana, there will not be that very wide disparity. Unfortunately, the single spine atonsum because of the inability to maintain the discipline in public sector wages. Over the last 8 years, the group that is able to strike the most gets more addition to their wages than those that don't go on strike. And so the disparities have occurred again. And so we're in consultation with organized labor to see what we can do about reforming public sector wages. And I'm sure that if those wages are made better, journalists working in the public sector would also have an improvement in their remuneration. With the private sector, government does not have control there. And what happens is we have such a proliferation of private media that advertising revenue is not enough, to be able to maintain the kinds of salaries that we all expect. Maybe if we had fewer, then the advertising revenue would go around and people can have more. But our constitution guarantees freedom to establish a media of mass communication. And so you cannot restrain how many radio stations you have or how many newspapers you have. And so it's something that we have to live with for a while. Natural competition will phase out the stations that are not competitive, and those that are able to survive will see that they're able to make more money from advertising. The main revenue for media all over the world is advertising. And so we'll see how that goes. I've condemned assaults on journalists in any form. Journalists are doing their job, and their job is to bring news to the doorsteps of our people and to inform them, educate and entertain them. And so at every event you will have journalists there. Unfortunately, some security personnel have developed a penchant for just harassing journalists. And so it's a matter of educating people. It's a matter of, sanctioning people who assault journalists. And I've been speaking with my president of GJA, saying that we're going to bring them together with the security agencies so that they must carry out an awareness amongst their people who provide security at events, that if you see a journalist at an event, he's also doing a job like you, the security person, are doing your job. And so you don't have the right to assault them or to manhandle them. And so we'll keep working at it. I mean, definitely, as a member of the GJA, a lifetime member of the GJA, there's no way I'll condone assault of journalists in any form. We do occasional review of tariffs. And when these tariffs are about to be reviewed, proposals are requested from the utility organizations. And so I noted that recently Ghana Water presented their proposal, and Electricity Company of Ghana also presented their proposal. It doesn't mean that the proposal they present is what is going to be implemented. We have the regulator, which is the PURC, that looks at all the factors, including the exchange rates, including the cost of production and all that, before they determine what increase in tariff is allowed. And so the fact that you hear that water company says they're going to increase by 200 and something %, does not necessarily mean that PURC is going to allow them to do that. Now, meaning about Obusa ECG then also, the same for both utilities. ECG so I propose 200 and something %, but I know interest PURC budget to say want to be into electricity tariffs musa. On a normal core electricity production to say fuel Nissan your money in Asana Omashe senior omo day tariff in BC. Now MP at the frontier your tariffs across run is a nipa be entria into what ECG say your cancer commercial and technical losses are almost 42%. I just say of electricity almost to me of only about 58%. Now I know and can say Afanabia and Kasa a Jumeya say oh yeah Jumebiana Bibia Utumbia Unya just return of 58% and by now a Juanebu. So I buying the say a church now buying Abeboa, a church now buying Abeboa. And your assistant Omo Moshe Ejumanoso and I Kenya say almost sorry. Na omo nante nanya onkrofo muwia iram kania no ni adini na yechechi omo na yentwe omo aso if says ye na etwa ebema etono ebona fom enti ejuma ye beguso aye Bloomberg, yes, we're quite happy with the outcomes of the reforms that we have been implementing in the economy. And we have survived without going to the capital markets. We've survived without borrowing. Who could have thought some years ago that Ghana's economy could be run without going to the external market to borrow? And yet, we've survived. And so we shouldn't be in a hurry to go back to the capital market. All we've done is to reorder our expenditure and push funds to areas that are of priority. And so that's what we've done. Fiscal discipline, not spending money on wasteful, political interventions and all that. And that is already showing the successes in the market. I mean, we've gone from negative 3.4% on the primary balance to positive 1.1 as at now. And by the end of the year, we'll achieve the target. I'm sure we'll overachieve the target of positive 1.5. And so it's all about discipline in expenditure. And so for me as the president, I would not favor a quick return to the international capital market. I think we should go like this for a while and consolidate the economy before we look at external financing. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. Now, having taken a set of questions from this side, I would go to this side and take 4 more questions. Kamini, you may have the first shot.
Mr. President, it's Kamini Amano. I'm the host of TV3's Hot Issues. We look forward to your return to the iconic show. I want to talk about the local currency, the cedi. In the second quarter of the year, we saw a very bullish rise in the value of the cedi. We are not seeing the same in the third quarter. So far, we are told that it's lost about some 13%. When it was on its rise, the IMF had warned that the country was over-interfering, which is why we were seeing the performance. My question tonight is, Mr. President, did you manipulate the performance of the cedi? Is that why we're seeing the cedi fall as quickly as it is today? How do you explain this decline in value in such a short period of time? And what's the plan to revive it?
Thank you very much. Nana Major has the floor.
Patramidin Nana Major Korea TV. My question is oral. I'm saying, Mr. President, what can be a oral? Now, the last accountability series, Attorney General, a statement in the reading, I wish to remind you of the fact that when I announced the Kwabena Edubuahi investigation, I was blunt in stating the fact that I am open to engaging in plea bargaining with those who have been investigated and found to have looted or stolen state resources. I mean no words about my intentions and will therefore not shut the door to any accused person willing to enter into negotiations with my office for purposes of reaching a plea agreement. Yenim say criminal and other offences procedure amendment act 2022 plea bargaining. But my question is say fight corruption as Attorney General, State Attorney say we be up no the atokonomwa. Say we loot state resource and as a fund, bra, then we may negotiate. Doesn't mean say, so Betty says, Sikana me fine, met ya, ye giant one, and do one, the question, that's
Justice from Shimwa News Agency.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. My name is Justice from China State Media Xinhua News Agency. Looking at the global trade crisis that was ignited by the United States President, people have been wondering what countries like Ghana would be doing as a response. But we realized recently that the Chinese government has actually granted all African countries a zero tariff into their market. What will Ghana be doing to take advantage of that for our trading to be boosted as a substitute to what we may have been losing from the United States side? Thank you.
Before I take the final question from here, let me indicate that we are joined by journalists from across the regions through the power of technology. So as and when the technical folks sit down, I would ask them to also contribute to this question and answer session. Alfred, you may have the last word in this batch.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. President. My name is Alfred Okanse. I work with TV3 as part of Media General. Just on the back of the oral question that was asked by a colleague of mine, over the weekend we had the General Secretary of your party indicate that there are some NDC lawyers who are cutting deals with some persons who are standing trial for acts of corruption. Is this statement one that you're minded by? And if you are, what are you going to do about this, especially because of how committed you are, as you indicated, to pursue oral because the Ghanaian people expect that you should do so? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Alfred. Now, we are joined by William Minta from Rich F. So, William, if you can hear me, you have the floor.
Okay, so my name is William Minta from a Simcoe-based Rich FM Central Region. And Mr. President, Central Region is known as the heartbeat of education and tourism. Yet our people still struggle with unemployment and underdeveloped infrastructure. What specific steps is your government and our strength into real jobs and opportunities for the youth? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Your Excellency, you may answer this question, sir.
Thank you very much. The first question is about the rise in the value of the city. We recognize a very steep appreciation in the value of the city in response to the reforms that we were carrying out. And for those of you who listened to me, there was one occasion where I said, people were asking whether it will go below 10. And I said, it is dropping, but it will find its true value. It was undervalued at 16, and it probably is overvalued at 10. But somewhere between there, we have the real value of the city. And so I believe that it is about stopping rapid depreciation of the currency. Almost every currency would realize either depreciation or appreciation in the course of a year. But when you have steep depreciation of about, like we had in 2024, 25% depreciation in the currency in the first half of the year, it makes planning difficult. And so yes, Bank of Ghana has been intervening in the forex market, but they've withdrawn. And what happened was that because of the rapid appreciation in the value of the cedi, we saw an exponential increase in imports, because then people could buy cheaper dollars and so they could import more, which is a natural economic phenomenon. But on the other side, exporters are not happy because they get less cedis for what they export. And so every country tries to find out a balance where exporters are able to do good business and importers are not overburdened by high forex rates. Where that lies, I don't know. I'm not a central bank. But the cedi is making an adjustment, and I believe that it will settle at a certain rate, and we will make sure that any depreciation that occurs in the value of the cedi is within a margin of about 5% per annum. That is what we target. And so for now, there's still speculation. It's also coincided with a period where we saw a reduction of 50% in remittances, because citizens in the diaspora were taken aback by the rapid appreciation of the cedi. And so if somebody was building a house, if he was going to send $100,000, it meant that he was losing a certain percentage of that 100,000. And most of them would decide to adopt a wait-and-see attitude and say, oh, no, as for cedi, it's not possible that the cedi can regain its value to that extent. By all means, it will go up again. So I'll hold back my remittance until the cedi goes back up. So we saw a 50% reduction, but there were also some other factors. There were some money transfer companies that were collecting cedis abroad and not repatriating collecting dollars abroad and not repatriating the dollars. There were other which we're investigating. There were other cases where people applied through the commercial banks for foreign exchange to cover imports. And those monies are transferred to pay for imports, but the imports never came into Ghana. And we've studied a period of 4 years, and over the period of 4 years, about $42 billion was taken out of this country without the corresponding imports coming into the country. And so we started sanctioning some banks, and soon we'll start interrogating some individuals who ostensibly took money out against imports but never brought those imports. We want to know what happened and if there was wrongdoing to sanction whoever it is. While we work to stabilize our economy and improve the value of our currency, we must protect that currency, because a strong cedi is good for all of us. But when that happens, some people try to take advantage of it. And I think that we should all condemn anything like that. FR investigations now here with regards to oral. Senior Okayano, MPP Abreso Omode, Shishebi by IMRA, say Abani Woody, FR case, we won't say Ebia, Wafesika, na Bibia. Or Aquina Ubitimiaka say you any abine case na Mode Equedua Mode Mesande Sikana say Agudebia na say Bibia Modebom Equeduno Mesande Aba Senebea Monfamin Koto how do they call imprisonment? If you say Monfamin Koto if you say Enti yemra edaho enti obi a yabɔ no kwedu bia ɛwɔ tumi sɛ ɔbɛka sɛ yo ɛne yɛntwa so na memfa sɛ imra na yɛngyae saa ɛyi no enti no ɛnyɛ ɛna ɛbɛka ɛyɛ nipa yɛde na kogyina court and so sɛ ɔka sɛ o mungyae asɛm no mu na memfa sɛ imra na sɛ agudie bi a me fire me famra na say japade bi a me fire me famra na say bibi aban wakwenya say ebeka say de bi enje na yebeto aso any case no Enti ejina case no ene nia nipa ne ye. Enti still aban wo to me say even though wako emrana siaka say me pese me san ede bibi bema aban na aban eja case no mu. Aban betimi aka say de bi yempe yenje. Enti eno a case by case say o sheda ede adwembone ewia yesika a echese eso a ye nyina echese I don't know how to explain. I just say abo aban anase oman car you to me say beka say yempe nya wode ba no na ye do beka akoto efiase ba ni be rezo ka say na wode nkoto efiase one na obeto aduane ama no one na obehwe no oyare a wode no beka hospital enti say we wia sika na okase o sande usika be mawa ene ho wonfa so say ye beji ye sika chen say ye di nipa no beko efiase enti ye no de Attorney General ene behwe no akan here. With regards to trade tariffs and China, zero tariffs, it's an incentive for us to export into the Chinese market. And we need to look at the items that China imports and see where we have a comparative advantage to be able to take up those imports. I know that China imports a lot from the US, and there's a trade tariff war between US and China. So China is looking for alternative markets to import those items. And so they import a lot of meats from the US, they import a lot of maize from the US and other agricultural products. And so if we have arable land and we're in a position to expand our production, then the zero tariff will make meaningful sense. Then we can take advantage of it. But it is just a figure if we're not able to respond and be able to export into the Chinese market. But I think that it offers an opportunity for diversification of markets. Nobody wins tariff wars. It's unfortunate America has appended the whole world trade system. We all work towards a rules-based trading system. It took years of negotiation from Rio to Doha round and all that. And eventually, reasonable tariffs were agreed between countries. Countries like Africa enjoyed zero tariff into the US because we were in the developing world. And so it was a concession that US gave. And what you receive in exchange is soft power. That, you know, a lot of people have a good disposition towards the US because the US has been kind to Africa and all that kind of thing. But in comes President Trump. He has a more transactional mindset. And he says that the US has been taken for granted for a long time. And so even countries like Ghana in Africa, he slapped a 15% tariff on us from zero tariff. And so AGUA is technically dead. It was due for renegotiation in September. There's no way with this 15% tariff, AGUA is going to be renewed. But we're just watching carefully. The power to impose tariffs is that of Congress. But in this case, the US president always pushes the limits. And so there's a case in the US Supreme Court to determine whether his impositions of tariffs are legal or not. And so depending on what the US court says, the tariffs would either be permanent or they might have to go back to Congress to endorse the tariffs that he has imposed. And then from the Central Region, Rich FM, he asked what we're doing to enhance the tourist attraction of the Central Region. It's all about infrastructure. It's also about service. With infrastructure, even the travel time to Central Region is a major problem. In Ghana, we've maintained single lane, highways for a very long time. they are prone to accidents. A lot of accidents occur. Now every day you hear there's an accident on the Kumasi Road, there's an accident on the Cape Coast Road. And that is because when two vehicles oncoming and going are using a single lane, the tendency for head-on collisions are very real because of wrongful overtaking and all that. So one of our first things that would enhance tourism in the central region is that we're dualizing the road all the way to Takrady. It will reduce travel time to Cape Coast. It will allow somebody to wake up in the morning, travel to Cape Coast, enjoy his tourist experience, and be back in the evening to Accra to sleep. And so reducing the travel time will help enhance that. But apart from that, we must identify what the tourist sites are, improve their attractiveness, and also improve the service delivery. One of the things that affects tourism in Ghana and West Africa is that our service is poor. You go to a restaurant and they think that they are doing you a favor. You go to eat and they think that you owe them, to serve you. If you go to other parts of the world, it's completely different. You're compelled to spend your money because they are all over you. Even before you finish the drink that they have given you, you are halfway. Can I bring you another drink? And if you are the shy type and things, you always say, oh yes, yes. And you forget that you have to pay for it. And so we must improve our service delivery. Owners of services must take professionals who know how to be courteous to customers, to know that we're in this job because you've come here to eat or you've come here to do this. And so that's one of the drawbacks of our whole tourism experience. And most times you spend so much money, set up an establishment, instead of going for professionals, you go and haul your relatives from the village to come and serve people. They pay and they can't even get change. You can't find the waiter who took your money. And when you even find them, he says, oh, we have no change. I mean, they have a certain sense of entitlement. And so until we reform all these, and it's an attitudinal problem, until we reform all these, and people who own these establishments make sure that service delivery is at near 100%, we would not be able to attract enough tourists into our country. We have a beautiful country. People come and, they just say, look, this country is good. But you get a lot of the feedback, and you say, oh, but what is negative about it? Oh, your service is not the best. Always, that's the feedback that comes. But the government will do its part. Government has the responsibility for making sure the infrastructure is good. And we're starting with the road, making sure that we dualize the road all the way to Cape Coast and Central Region so that people can travel easier to go and enjoy the tourist attractions there.
The middle row. So Bernard Avle of Chewan, Sadiq Adams, Mahama Haruna from the Savannah region, and there's a lady at the back there, and Joshua from GH1.
Thank you, Felix. Thank you, Felix. Before my question, I'd like to indicate that there was a question on Galamsey, which I believe has...
Yes, I just wanted His Excellency, he would deal with it. Yeah.
Thank you very much. So, Mr. President, thank you for this opportunity. We're told democracy thrives on checks and balances and separation of powers. Your party has a 2/3 majority in Parliament. The Chief Justice you came to meet has been removed, of course, under your hand, although the process was gone through. There is talk of the EC chair and the leadership quote not being fit for purpose by members of your party. Some people fear that these developments and others create a situation where the other arms of government are completely subservient to the executive. In fact, one newspaper expressed the fear that you could be morphing into, quote, a supreme leader, unquote. There is a maxim that power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely. Should we be worried in your legacy term that the democracy you came to meet will be well oiled and that the three arms of government will work not in subservience but in unison? Thank you.
All right, before I come back to you, we'll also go to Tamale and take a question from Abdul Mujis from Tamale. Sagani TV from Tamale. Abdul Mujis, you have the floor if you can hear me.
Thank you very much. Mr. President, good evening. My name is Ba Abdul Mujis from Tamale. My question has to do with the Tamale and Yendi water project. I would like to know when.
Well, we seem to have lost Abdul, but I think I can continue for him. We would like to know when the Tamale and Yendi water projects will be executed. Yeah, Sadiq, you have the floor now.
Good evening, Mr. President, and thank you very much for this opportunity. My name is Sadiq Adams from Angel TV and Angel Radio. Mr. President, the question is on national unity and peace. There has been a recent spate in social media accounts created by unidentified people purported to be representing ethnic and tribal groups. We have seen some vile attacks, pockets of that on social media, TikTok, and some of them in real life. There has been a number of them, and we observe over 50 that has been set up particularly to attack and inflame ethnic passion and tribal issues. If your security agencies have taken notice of this, to ensure that our national unity and cohesion is protected by education and sensitization, as well as trying to put this in a context of not suppressing freedom of expression, as well as maintaining the national cohesion that we have because of these kinds of threats and attacks from social media on ethnic basis. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Joshua from GH1.
Good evening, Mr. President. I am Joshua Kujumensa, GH1 Television and Star FM. I'm glad to hear that you personally are telling us that indeed steps have been taken to repeal LI 2462. But then I want to find out from you, the pro-environmentalist groups and the civil society, they want this declaration of a state of...
Please, I would like to hear what is happening with the Black Star experience. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So His Excellency will now answer these questions.
Thank you very much. Let me first apologize for missing one of the questions, and that is the accusation that there's interference in terms of the oral investigations. I would have very conveniently said the General Secretary himself is here, and so I'll call him to present his evidence to the public. But I can assure you that there's no way we can interfere. I cannot be in people's mind to stop them from attempting to interfere, but I am responsible for making sure that that interference comes to naught. And so I closely monitor. I hold regular meetings with the Attorney General. He briefs me on the status of investigations, and so I'm confident that the cases will go ahead based on their merits, and that nobody would have the opportunity to interfere. If anybody goes lobbying people or paying people to interfere, they probably are just throwing away their resources. All cases will be investigated and come to their logical end. If people are exonerated in the courts, that's what justice is all about. We will do our part, and we're being painstaking in preparing the dockets, and that's why people are complaining that it's a bit slow. But you don't want to hurriedly take a docket to courts and have it thrown out on technicality, and that's why you need to make sure that by the time a docket is prepared and prosecution starts, you have a watertight case that will ensure that you get a conviction. And so that's the process that we're going through. There was also a question that was tied to water, but it also had to do with Galamsey. It says that the justification for water company asking for such a steep increase was because of the cost of treating the water. And I answered in terms of the tariff, but not in terms of the Galamsey in the water. But in my statement, I indicate that we just started with the Blue River Guards. We're training more and more of them. These are long expanses of water bodies. And so far, those we've trained are 600 and something. They are not enough to cover even the length of the Ankobra. And so as we recruit and deploy, because they patrol the water bodies, if they see any Shamfam machine on the water body, they seize it and we burn it, we destroy it. And so I gave you the number of Shamfam machines we have seized and destroyed. As we continue to increase the numbers of these Blue River Guards, I'm sure that we'll be able to cover the tunnel, we'll be able to cover the Pra, we'll be able to cover the Ankobra. And we hope that then we'll start seeing, some reduction in the turbidity of the water. But even more than those on the water bodies, the destruction is the forest reserves. Because the rivers take their catchment areas from the water reserve. So if you destroy from the forest reserve, if you destroy the forest reserve, the river or the stream will dry up. Because where it takes its water source will no longer exist. And so that's why at the beginning of the struggle, I said our focus is going to be on the water bodies and the forest reserves. And then we can stretch out to other areas. So as we train more Blue River Water Guards, we would see an improvement in the turbidity levels of the waters. Bernard said I'm in danger of becoming a supreme leader. Look in my face, do I look like a supreme leader? And that is to paraphrase Prof. Star. At times, do I look like a cat hunter? Do I look like a supreme leader? I'm a Democrat through and through. And even when we attained 2/3 of parliament, I said that we're not going to use it to ride roughshod over the minority, and that we're going to give opportunity for democracy to flourish. And so we intend to use our 2/3 majority to steamroll our democracy. We believe that even though the people of Ghana gave us that overwhelming majority, it wasn't meant to turn Ghana into a dictatorship. They gave it to us in order that we could carry out reforms to make our governance better. And I think that we stand a very good chance with that 2/3 majority to finally move the amendments to the Constitution that we have all wanted. In the past, because of hung parliaments and all that, we couldn't make any progress because there are some of those amendments for which you need an overwhelming majority. And so Ghanaians have given us that opportunity and say, look, go ahead and do these things so that we can have a better constitution that will take Ghana for many more generations to come. And so that's what I believe. But I certainly am not on the way to becoming a supreme leader or an autocrat. Yendi and Tamale water. Yendi, Tamale, and Damango are 3 urban areas in the northern regions that suffer severe water scarcity, especially Tamale. Tamale is probably the biggest city in the whole of the 5 northern regions. The population has been increasing rapidly, and the water system has not expanded as fast to meet the demand of a growing population. And so we have to urgently expand Tamale, Yendi, and Damango has become a regional capital. It has started growing very fast, and it faces a scarcity of water. The Tamale and Damango water systems are under an EU program, and recently when I went to Brussels, it's one of the things we discussed. There's funding available for those 2 water systems. And so because we have a cap on our credit, external credit of $250 million a year, we have to find space within that to be able to accommodate Tamale and Damango water. But I want to assure you that they are priority projects for government, and we definitely would fund them and make sure that before we leave office, Tamale and Damango get sufficient water for those cities to thrive. With Yendi, we are placing Yendi under the Big Push program. And so we're going to fund it with our oil and gold revenues and establish an expanded water treatment system for Yendi. The budget statement is going to be read in November. And in the budget statement, details of these projects will be included in the budget. The last time the GJA came to me, I mentioned to them that as the world changes and new technologies come, we're moving from not having just the traditional media into having what we call the new media. These are all the new social media instruments like TikTok, like Facebook, like X, and all of them. And so the traditional sense of journalists like you, most of you trained and working in media houses that have a corporate identity and can be held responsible for the information that you put out, is beginning to change. We have a new crop of new, I'll call them new journalists, who anybody with a phone and a camera can report news or comments on national issues. Now the point is, who holds those people responsible? And that's what he's saying. If you go to some of the WhatsApp platforms, or you go to some of the commentaries in the TikToks and others, we have what we call hate speech, incitement to violence. Those are criminal. Despite the fact that we have removed the criminal libel laws, there are some laws that make such people accountable. Because if we don't regulate that sector, it can lead this nation to war. There are some of the incendiary statements that have been made in the Boko situation that are fueling some of what is happening there, making people hate each other and see each other as enemies. It's been the same in the Gonja Brefo thing. Some people fanning and inciting violence against each other. This falls in the ambit of the National Signals Bureau. And so the National Signals Bureau now has the technology to use your IP number and find you wherever you are. So I'm sending a signal to Ghanaians that we can find you those doing those hate speech and things. We'll use your IP number, we'll trace you. And when we trace you, we'll deal with you under the criminal code for inciting violence and disturbance of the peace. But I believe that beyond that, we must start making regulation for this new media because it's unregulated. And so anybody just takes a phone and says, oh, this plane crash, I wish that so and so had been the one in the helicopter and had died, and dwarfs have eaten him in the forest. I mean, why would you say something like that? And so we need regulation for that new emerging media. But in the meantime, the National Signals Bureau has been given the full authority to track down people who do that kind of thing and bring them to be sanctioned under the criminal code. I've been reluctant to implement a state of emergency in the Galamsey fight because we've not exhausted the powers we even have without a state of emergency. We have the opportunity to arrest anybody, to confiscate any such thing. There are laws for forest protection and all that give us enough powers to be able to act. Implementing a state of emergency might sound nice, but it should be the last extreme, the last resort. So for now, let's exercise all the powers we have. And if it becomes necessary for a state of emergency, then we'll look at it. It means we have to go to Parliament. The President can't just declare a state of emergency without, going to Parliament, because there's a limit to how long you can maintain that state of emergency. And so I believe that we still have leverage to continue to fight Galamsey without necessarily implementing a state of emergency. It means that we have to delineate the areas where the state of emergency is operational. And if you look at the area where Galamsey is taking place, it covers several districts of our country. And so we would do it if it becomes necessary. But for now, I think that we've given the security services enough powers to be able to deal with people who are found to be involved in galamsey. With regards to the security in the Sola, Tuna, Kalba, and Bole districts, it was an incident over a small plot of land, like the land you put a container kiosk on. That's all. And it has led to over 30 deaths. Somebody has his house, and there's a land between the house and the streets. And he wants to build shops on that land. And then there's a dispute with the chief. And then it leads to gunfire and then deaths. It's most unfortunate, like the questioner said, these are two groups that have lived in peace for so many years and are intermarried. There are people from one side who are married to the others, people from one side that are married to others. I, for instance, am such a mixture of people, I don't know who I am. Part of me is Vagla, part is Safalba, part is Gonja. I mean, quarter of everything. And so if my ethnic groups are fighting, it means my body should be fighting with different parts of my body because I'm a mixture. My blood is made up of all those ethnic groups. And so it's most unfortunate. And so we've put in a mediation team. We mentioned the members. The two MPs are supposed to be ex-official members to work with the mediation team. If you look at the terms of reference in the mediation team, there's also reconciliation. And so even though we call it a mediation team, its terms of reference includes reconciliation. So we're giving them the full authority to meet both sides, to perform purification rites, to cleanse the land of any blood that has been spilled and all that. And then to come out with recommendations how to improve relations between the two groups so that they live in peace. There are few feudal practices that have been complained about, you know, where people are called to chiefs' palaces and shipped, or they are forced to give up their animals and things. We need to look at all those practices too as we go forward. We're in a modern society, and so sometimes some of these things we must take another look at them. I've been accepted by all sides. Indeed, sometimes my greatest supporters were people of other ethnic extractions other than my own Gonja extraction. I won elections not because I was a Gonja, but because of the person that I was, you know, and I enjoyed a good relations with everybody. And so even though I haven't visited yet, I have not gone there yet because I want peace to have a chance, but I've been pulling the strings. I sent a delegation to the Yegonra to prevent him from leaving Damango and going to Biniri, which would have escalated the conflict. And he listened to me as a father, and he refused to go. I stopped the Bolera too from going there. We gave the chiefs an escort to go and see the place where the incident happened. And I think that that has lessened tensions. As I speak, we've given the security services the authority and the resources to begin to bring some of the displaced people back to their communities. And so we're going to work hard to make sure that we bring peace to Gonjaland. We need peace to develop. Our common enemy is poverty, it's not each other. Savannah is one of the poorest regions in the country, and so we must rather be fighting poverty rather than fighting each other. And the last one, the creative arts. The creative arts is one of the important sectors. What we notice is that the creative industry creates jobs faster than the traditional sectors that we have known. By the time sector or manufacturing creates one job, the creative sector, digitalization, knowledge industry, arts and things would have created about 5 jobs. And so that's an area in which we have to continue to invest. And that is why we created them as a ministry together with tourism. The Black Star experience will take off. They've been working on all the foundational issues, and you'll soon see a sign of it. In the next budget, we're going to make some allocation for the creative arts, for the film fund, and to support Kuma Wood and all the filmmakers, to support the music industry, to support the arts and all that. We need to put our money where our mouths are. And I think that the creative arts are a good representation of our culture and who we are as a people. Thank you.
Excellency, unfortunately, due to constraints of time, we will take a final round. So I will start with the gentleman from TV5 Le Monde, and then let me be inward looking and call GTV, who I superintend. I see Kodo Yansen at the back. Let me come this way and call the gentleman from BBC, and then I'll give the final slot to a lady, the lady at the back. That will be it. Oh, they are both in black, incidentally. Well, one has more white than the other, so I'll call it. All right, so Lemon, you have the floor.
Good evening and thank you for having me tonight. My name is Victor Cariou. I'm the Ghana correspondent for Radio France International, TV5 and Le Monde Afrique. These questions concern the diplomatic relationship between the United States of America and Ghana and Africa, and the deportation of migrants from the US to third countries in Africa. Your Excellency, with regard to this matter, how do you perceive the recent deal between the US and Rwanda, Eswatini or South Sudan? And also, has Ghana already received migrants from the third country deported from the US? Or if not, is Ghana considering doing so in the near future? Thank you.
Thank you very much. GTV has the floor now.
Thank you. Good evening, Your Excellency. You announced that the government will remove the minimum capital requirement for foreign investors under a revised Ghana Investment Promotion Sector Act during your visit to Japan. Your Excellency, is the government not removing the protection that shields Ghanaian enterprises by removing the minimum capital requirement, and also the concerns about the Ghanaian traders with the activities of the Nigerian trade partners in the country? There's a request for that part of the GIPC Act to be amended to make it possible for Nigerian and indeed other African traders to move more freely within the space because of ASCFTA. What are your views? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Kodo Yansen has the floor now.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. President. My name is Kojo Yankson. I'm the host of the Super Morning Show on Joy. Mr. President, you've already talked about how important it is to safeguard the water bodies and the forest reserves. But over the past 9 months since you became president, the turbidity levels in the water bodies have worsened, according to the Water Resources